3 more USB 100-watt power adapters. On the quest to find the perfect power adapter, we continue the 100-watt hunt. The Shargeek 100-watt wall adapter I fully expect to be a disappointment. The 100-watt idmix is a total unknown, but it's red and pink, weird colors. And finally, for today, the nomadiq has some interesting marks on the box, and looks good, but can it meet its own marketing claims? 3 adapters of equal power levels, all with the same port arrangement. The performance and functionality will be checked on these adapters. In this series, I try to answer the question, which power adapter do I want to get? The videos get technical, so hang on and always ask questions if you don't understand something. The performance is measured and compared to near competitors to see how each one stacks up. If you want to help out the channel, see the links on my webpage or in the description. Patreon is now live, as well as the super button. Thanks to my current patrons and channel supporters. First up is the Shargeek GAN Charger 100-watt Pro with model S100P. This adapter comes wrapped in plastic to keep the box safe from predators. Once we get inside, this adapter is a black monolith. You can get it in yelping yellow too. Better than the putrid pink of the idmix. Getting ahead of myself. The adapter has 4 USB ports, 1 USB-A and 3 USB-C ports. The other side of the adapter, we can see the usual marks of interest. It looks like we have a 2.5 amp in rating. This is concerning. Usually that means no power factor correction. We'll get into that in a bit. The UL safety listing is nice to see, and it has a 6 in a circle, which means the mark of Department of Energy Efficiency label. This adapter has an extra trick up its sleeve in that it can support some of the clip-on adapters that make this compatible with international plugs. I tried the UK and the Euro plug adapters, and they seem to be decent fits. Tiny win? The user manual gives you the basics of what you need. It is not anything special. They let you know what the modes it supports are and how to plug it in and all. Time to plug it in though, and find out what it can do. For the modes of operation, this adapter has 5, 9, 12, 15, and 20 volt fixed USB 3.1 power delivery modes. The adapter also has a programmable power supply mode or variable voltage mode, which can be more efficient for charging. In this case, it's 11 volts and only on the middle port. The mode is 4 amps though, so this should have support for 45 watt Samsung super fast charging. The power negotiation is as expected with these. Every plug and unplug resets all the ports. No surprises. Overload is testing when the device safely shuts down when too much power is drawn. This can happen from a short circuit or misbehaving device. This adapter tripped on overload at 108 watts. This is a safe limit and not cause for any concern. The power factor correction is a technique to consume AC power as effectively as possible. The higher the power factor, the lower the comparable current, and therefore the lower the loss in wires and transformers that supply your power. The goal is to have all the waves look the same shape as the yellow line, a sine wave. This power adapter lacks power factor correction, which for a power adapter of this size starts to matter. This is worth dollars a year if you really use this thing. If you only use 30 watts fine, then you probably don't need this adapter. The choice here makes no sense at all. We'll see in the weight department if they did something different here to justify leaving it out, but I doubt it. Maybe it's like a quarter the price? We'll get into pricing later on too. The data on this one is good and bad. It isn't bad efficiency-wise and DC voltage-wise, so this will effectively charge your devices and isn't a bad choice from those perspectives. The idle looks good, and this meets the Department of Energy 6 efficiency requirements. The trouble is, AC power is sinusoidal, and this isn't. This mismatch means it is actually a less efficient in the real world. It's not terribly different, but enough to matter at 100 watts, even if it's active for a few hours per day. As mentioned, if you only use it at 30 watts, then 1, get a 30 watt adapter, and then 2, the efficiency doesn't change much. So, as a lower powered adapter, this is fine. The idmix 100 watt GAN Charger PQ1002U Pro is pink and red. The box has a claim of SiC and GaN. This is silicon carbide and gallium nitride. These are types of transistors which have properties that make them a bit more efficient for switching power supply applications versus standard silicon counterparts. This is exactly the same adapter as the Shargeek on the inside. There are a few subtle differences on the outside. The adapter lacks the clip-on plug ability, so it can't easily connect to international sockets, and it comes with a 1 meter long USB cable. This will get added to the USB cables list. No video, it'll just be on the dataset. Back to the transistors. With the lack of power factor correction, I'm not sure why they need both of those types, and that is probably a lie. For the casing, I think they got a deal at the mold factory. If you use whatever's left over, it is cheaper. I'm not going to get into any more details on it though, because this is the same product as the Shargeek. All the details of the Shargeek apply to this idmix adapter. The same manufacturer and guts and exactly the same safety listing number. Performance is close enough to say that they are really the same. They both have the same for USB functionality too. Last up is the nomadiq 100 watt GAN 2 superfast USB charger with model TC104CCCA. With a salivating name like that, this has to be the best adapter out there, right? This adapter comes in a box and then it's wrapped in bonus plastic. Oh, we get a double wrapper even. Yeah, they should do better than this. It does have space for a USB cable, which is not included in this case. The adapter, like the others, is a 4-port device. It has a safety listing and it also has the DOE 6 mark. This is a good sign. It is very similar to the Baseus 100 watt wall adapter in terms of form factor and size. Very similar design elements too. There was one thing on the box I really liked. They give you the infographic of the port sharing right on the outside of the box. This is so convenient. The adapter on the box says 2.5 amps in, which again means no power factor correction. But when we look at the actual adapter, we can see this says 1.5 amps in, which means it probably does have power factor correction. Mixed messages, always a good sign of quality. The user manual for this one isn't bad. It did come with a little discount card. Here's a number. This is going to break something if I show it, isn't it? Whatever. Kind of already know what this adapter can do for ports since they put it on the box. I like that. Once this adapter is plugged in, we can see the idle power consumption is within reason, but it does bounce around a little bit. I will let this stabilize for the final reading. It fell to sub 0.2 watts, which is good. For modes of operation, this adapter has 5, 9, 12, 15, and 20 volt fixed USB 3.1 power delivery modes. The power adapter also has a programmable power supply mode, or the variable voltage, which can be more efficient for charging, of 20-ish volts. This mode can do up to 5 amps though, so it will support 45 watt Samsung superfast charging on the first USB-C port only. The power negotiation is as expected with these. Every plug and unplug resets all the ports. No surprises. Overload is testing when the device safely shuts down when too much power is drawn. This can happen from a short circuit or a misbehaving device. This adapter tripped on overload at 117 watts. This is pushing it a little bit, but still okay. There is some positive light for this adapter. It has good power factor correction, but it isn't the most efficient implementation I've seen. It really focuses on a clean waveform, but it struggles a little bit on the efficiency front. I'd rather see a power factor of 0.95 and an extra 1 or 2% efficiency on the top end. At light load, this thing is okay. It isn't as efficient as a non-power factor corrected device at lower power levels, and the efficiency is more important down there. The biggest issue I found with this power adapter is that when you want to use lots of watts, the DC voltage falls pretty rapidly. It seems to struggle to hold on to 20 volts, and it starts out low right out of the gate. The voltage dropped almost a full volt during full load testing. This is not great. It may trip some devices to think that they need to stop charging from an overload condition. This is kind of the showstopper for this adapter. The data on this one is mostly good. It is efficient, but not the most efficient. It has power factor correction, but it is not the best implementation I've seen. The voltage is low on the DC side, and that can matter for your charging needs, so I don't like this. This pretty much sets this as a not winning device. In reality, I bet this and the Baseus 100 watt wall adapter rolled off the same factory floor because they're just too similar to ignore. These are different cases, but the similarities are just too great to ignore. These adapters actually got the same overall score, but this one is slightly worse. It meets energy efficiency requirements. Time to get some weights on these adapters. The packaging for all these adapters was pretty standard. The adapters did have some extra single-use plastic that really wasn't necessary. The weights of all the adapters are almost identical. It is interesting that there is no weight change considering the lack of technology in the Shargeek and the idmix adapters. The Baseus is still the lightest of the bunch. Okay, time to compare the data. I've tested quite a few 100 watt adapters, so plenty to compare to. When comparing the idle data with others, these all do quite good actually. They all meet the idle requirements for the Department of Energy. Some bounce around a little bit, but the average idle power is good. For 100 watt adapters, these really aren't bad to leave doing nothing. On the idle graph, none of these stand out as bad. They all hold good positions in the middle area of the graph, and they aren't going to cost you anything significant if left plugged in. The power is clean while idling, so the score is high. When comparing the overall data with other adapters, these span a wide range of values. Starting low, the Shargeek and idmix are clones of each other and got nearly identical scores and performance numbers. These adapters lack PFC, so the real energy used actually looks better than it should. They're pulling the wool over your eyes on these. The nomadiq does a good job of achieving relatively clean power, so it has a very effective power factor circuit, but it is spending a little too much energy to get that clean power, so it isn't as efficient. And it has voltage issues. The Baseus wall adapter suffers this same problem. The desktop Baseus is fine in this regard. On the average power consumption graph, these all jump around a little bit. If you want to get one with power factor for the high end and none on the low end, but higher efficiency all around, get the Anchor. Interestingly, these 3 adapters all do meet the DOE efficiency requirements, so these are all fully compliant here. AC is confusing, so the non-PFC units will use more real power than shown, so take that with a grain of salt. Let's talk about value. I picked a range of adapters from cheap to expensive. I have lots of 100-watt adapters and picked a bunch here. The cheapest of today's bunch has issues, as do the 2 mid-value ones, but none of them are as expensive as the premium options. From what I've seen here, the pricing schemes don't make a whole lot of sense. Fact is, Shargeek and idmix are taking you for a ride with a much cheaper power adapter in an average priced category, but thankfully the nomadiq didn't do that, but it has the other issues of voltage. Okay, even more 100-watt power adapters. No blinding LEDs to keep you awake at night. We basically have 2 different products here. One of these is good on the AC side, and 2 of these are good on the DC side, but neither is good at both. I'd say we're in a situational skip on all of these adapters. In terms of operating modes, the nomadiq wins with its full power, PPS, and QC modes. The Shargeek and idmix cheap out with PPS with only 1 port, and I was only able to get 45 watts, 11 volts, or 4 amps out of it. The higher voltage modes on the nomadiq are very low voltage though, significantly under the requirements of the standard, so this is really unacceptable. Anchor and Baseus also tend to ride low, but not a full volt below the line. On the AC side, the nomadiq is extremely clean. The power factor correction circuit is in overdrive or something, which is also not good. It is wasting energy to get perfect power numbers, which is also not worth it. A little more efficiency and voltage on the output would give this one the top score. Actually, it matches the top score, but it doesn't win with the voltage issues. All of these adapters have clear safety listings. As shown, the idmix and the Shargeek are actually the exact same number, and on the inside they are the same, so they share the safety mark. The claim of SIC and GAN could be true, but the advantages of each don't make sense in the context of a non-PFC adapter, so no idea what is really going on. I'd expect SIC in a PFC circuit, and I'd expect GAN the primary flyback converter. So which one do you get? Well, the Shargeek and the idmix are going to work to charge your devices. The USB outputs are good, and these will safely and effectively charge lots of devices. So I think a lot of people would rather have these. They have the hidden efficiency cost if you really use them to charge larger devices like laptops, so they aren't for me, but they may be exactly what you need. The nomadiq, with its USB voltage failures, means I can't say go with this one, even though as a power supply, it is very good. It just doesn't have enough volts. It's a good thing I have a bunch more 100-watt power adapters to test. One of them has to be better. Okay, time to apply the stickers. These are tested and on the database, so you can take a look at how they stack up. These are all broken in one way or another. I'd basically steer clear of all of these, but if you want one, affiliate links to these and other options are in the description. Thanks for watching. Check out my website for upcoming videos. There's a schedule of release dates. I have too many more of these adapters to get through, so many more videos in the future. Goodbye.